Guys, we are living in tumultuous times. It seems like every day we're only getting more and more divided. And I don't like that. I would prefer it if we could all just get along. Because despite it not feeling that way at times, we all have a lot in common. We all think puppies are adorable. We all fear running out of toilet paper in a public restroom. We all know there's way too much air in them bags of chips. And we all make mistakes. Some of us think one thing but are completely wrong. Some of us let anger get the best of us. Some of us care more about ourselves than others. Some of us watching this video are not subscribed. Some of us spend $2.4 million on cars, then lay off a huge chunk of our company. It's all right, guys. It happens to the best of us. I believe mistakes can be redeemed. Oftentimes, they're actually just the thing we need to learn, to grow, to evolve. There's a saying that goes something like this: if you don't learn from your mistakes, you are doomed to repeat them. So when it comes to the topic of this video, know that I am coming from a good place, because today we're going to break down the biggest mistakes made in Destiny since the beginning. Not to spend 10 minutes or so dunking on Bungie, but to dissect why the game's in the state it's in, and to better understand what can be done about it moving forward. Now, full disclosure, this idea is not my own. A fellow YouTuber, Brandon Perna from That's Good Sports, made this exact video on the New York Giants about a month or two ago. I saw that video, liked the concept, and thought it was applicable here. If any of you guys are football fans like myself, I highly recommend checking out his channel. With that out of the way, let's talk about Destiny. Our journey begins back in 2014. The hype leading up to Destiny was absolutely massive. We thought this thing was going to eclipse the invention of sliced bread, as I've mentioned in some of my much older videos. What is that?
It's bread.
But why is it in that shape?
It's because it's sliced bread.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Hey, have you heard of Destiny 2?
What?
You know, like Destiny.
No.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Unfortunately, the actual product we got was a bit of a mess, to put it lightly. I'm sure the vast majority of you guys watching this are Destiny fans, so you probably already know what happened. Destiny went through a massive reboot late in its development, replacing key pieces of the team like the game's composer, Martin O'Donnell, and writer Joseph Staten, who I recently learned works at Duolingo now. That is completely irrelevant, but I thought it was kind of funny. Anyway, that change in direction was certainly felt when the game came out. When players discovered the original version was torn apart, then pieced back together into the Frankenstein monster we experienced, it wasn't the least bit surprising. The game has come a long way since then, but first impressions matter a lot. To this day, Destiny and Bungie aren't looked at the same, especially in the way of storytelling. That initial campaign experience left a lasting mark on what people's perception and expectation are of Bungie's projects. Peter Dinklage, for example, has been linked to the project for literally a decade, and I still know several people who refer to the ghost as Dinklebot and remember the horribly delivered "We've woken the hive" line. That's not exactly fair, in my opinion, but it's the reality. A couple of months ago, I made 3 videos, each one revisiting a year of Destiny 1. Those videos were a ton of fun to make, and I highly recommend you check them out if you're interested. But I bring them up to make this point. The Taken King, while not perfect, did so much to fix Destiny. I go over it in a lot of detail in that video, but essentially they put together an actual cohesive narrative, delivered variety in mission design, and crafted an immensely engrossing endgame experience, among other things. And then just 1 year later, with Rise of Iron, they unlearned pretty much all of those lessons. Going back to it a decade later, it was unbelievable to me how similar Destiny Vanilla and Rise of Iron are. So much of the progress made in The Taken King was not carried forward, and this has been a reoccurring issue with Destiny over the years. Bungie will fix something or improve upon a particular system, then regress back to where they were before. They have really embodied this 1 step forward, 2 steps back, struggling to carry positive momentum. Rise of Iron following The Taken King, Lightfall following The Witch Queen, the lack of Destiny 3 following The Final Shape, making Curse of Osiris and Warmind when the identical format of The Dark Below and House of Wolves didn't land the first time around. I understand there are a lot of factors that go into this. Rise of Iron was being developed at the same time as Destiny 2. There's a lot of speculation. Lightfall and the Witch Queen are basically one expansion that was split into two to give them more time, but I'll get more into that later. But regardless of what the development process was, regardless if they weren't always given enough time and resources to deliver something incredible, the results are the results. As a fan of this franchise, seeing the game do this over the years, repeating the same mistakes, has been really frustrating. Now, in the spirit of actually trying something new, I swapped out a core part of my setup recently, that being my current mouse with the new Super Strike mouse from Logitech G. Usually a mouse is just a mouse. It clicks, pretty simple. There's maybe a few differences in how much it weighs or how many buttons are on it, but they're usually pretty similar. This one though is genuinely different, and I don't say that as like a sales buzzword thing. They basically took actuation tech from high-end keyboards and put it into a mouse. The first time anyone's done this. If you aren't familiar with what an actuation point is, it basically lets you customize the exact point the click registers. So for example, you can make the mouse really sensitive so you can click super fast, or give it more resistance, making each press more deliberate. It also works using haptic feedback, which you can tailor to your preference. I've been using it for a bit, and honestly, it's unlike anything I've used before. It gives you a level of customization that actually feels tailored to how you play, which is really cool. It's also super lightweight, and I think it looks awesome. If you use the link in the description or use code Timbo at checkout, you'll get a discount, and it's a direct way of supporting the channel. Even if you just need some new headphones or a keyboard, that link will work for anything on the site. Now let's move on to the Destiny 2 era, the last true fresh start this franchise has had. Specifically, what I want to talk about is what I refer to as the casualization of the game. Bungie here tried to fix a problem that didn't really exist. First off, they removed randomized weapon rolls from the game, which in theory made the grind less severe for casual Destiny players who are unlike us and have actual responsibilities. This was largely disliked though, because once you got a better Devils, for example, you were done. There wasn't a reason to find another. And the game lacked a certain amount of uniqueness or player expression due to this change, since everyone had the same version of every weapon. What's probably more notable though was the introduction of what's known as the double primary meta, where weapon types such as shotguns, fusion rifles, and snipers were moved to the third slot. So instead of primary, special, and heavy, it was changed to kinetic, energy, and power. This change attempted to further balance PvP, but it mostly made PvE feel like a slog, and people hated it. Nowadays, I would argue the game has veered in the complete opposite direction, which has mostly been for the better, but with some trade-offs I'll mention here in a moment. But overall, the gameplay being more boring and the loot chase being less exciting made for yet another bad first impression. There were plenty of people who played a bit of Destiny 1, quit, then came back to try Destiny 2 just for this to happen. Which kind of goes back to my last point about history repeating itself for this franchise, because Bungie once again needed to redeem themselves with their Year 2 expansion, the first time around with the Taken King, and now the second time around with Forsaken. Fast forwarding to the Beyond Light era, and we stumble upon what's probably one of the most controversial decisions Bungie has made, which is saying something. When Bungie announced they were going to sunset gear, something they had already done in the first game after Year 1, if you can remember that, people were not a fan. In the eyes of a lot of players, all the time you invested grinding had been disrespected, as your favorite weapon or gear piece was no longer viable in high-level content. Now, admittedly, on one hand, I understood this. There was virtually nothing in the world that was going to make me want to unequip my Recluse, but at the same time, I missed my Recluse. I wanted to use it. It was fun. And should Bungie really prevent people from using the gear and weapons they like the most in a video game? A thing that at the end of the day, unless you're Neil Druckmann, is supposed to be fun? Probably not. While the intent was to shake up the meta and prevent power creep, Bungie also failed to make good replacements for these fan-favorite weapons. Instead, they essentially reintroduced those same weapons back into the game as either a nerfed version of what they previously were, or a copy of what you already had in your vault, just with a new seasonal sticker on it. All of those things combined just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I understand resetting everything in a potential Destiny 3 scenario. I would want them to do that, but putting a shelf life on players' achievements within the same game took away a big reason to continue investing in Destiny 2. Sunsetting does not hold a candle to this next one. What can I say about the content vault that hasn't already been said? Probably nothing, but I'll try. I understand other live service games add and remove content. I understand game optimization and UI organization and file size all become a problem for a game that's been around this long with this much stuff. But I think this is the single most destructive decision Bungie has made regarding Destiny. Not just for the principle of removing content you paid for, but the damage it has done to the new player experience. As I said, other games remove content. You can't boot up Fortnite and play on the Chapter 3 map or whatever anymore. But you didn't pay to play that content. You paid for the skins, and those skins are yours to keep. In Destiny, despite it touting itself as being free to play, you paid for that campaign. Those strikes, that raid, those destinations, those Crucible maps. And what's arguably worse is how genuinely horrible they've made it for new players to enter the Destiny universe. To the point where it seems like there was no plan on how to onboard new players when the content vault was introduced. With each new expansion, more content is removed from the game, and the more fragmented the game becomes as a result. Starting Destiny is like finding a book in the library, but the first 13 chapters have been ripped straight out. And it's got to be frustrating for the developers because they will come out with some genuinely amazing content, but lots of people don't play it because they've missed some time and there's no good way to catch up. Simply no proper, straightforward way to even start exists. And everyone who continues to pay for Destiny has to do so knowing that content will one day be inaccessible to them. There have been some efforts to fix this over the years, but none of them have been as good as they really should be. Bungie has seriously shot themselves in the foot with this decision, hurting their ability to consistently bring new players into the game. Another example of what I describe as what's likely poor management is how repetitive seasons became. When Bungie shifted from their singular DLCs to this, it was a pretty welcome change from what I can remember. In between bigger expansions, Destiny bridged the gap, sort of like an ongoing TV show with weekly updates to the narrative. Unfortunately, all these seasons would get removed the second the next expansion came out. And on top of that, these began to follow what can only be described as like a literal outline on a piece of paper you could see. They were extremely repetitive and predictable, making you do the same thing over and over again. Story mission, seasonal activity, helm vendor radio message, repeat. This led to people getting really bored of them, myself included. And after a few years of doing this, Bungie said they heard the feedback and were shifting from seasons to what they called episodes. But episodes were basically seasons in disguise, just a bit longer. And this is honestly where I stopped playing Destiny, as after the final shape, it just didn't interest me anymore. Lightfall was really bad. The end. No, I'm just kidding. Well, actually not really. You can tell they spliced content from the Witch Queen and the final shape and made Lightfall. The tone was off, the locations felt copy-pasted, the campaign was a glorified Strand tutorial, the Veil made no sense, the Witch Queen built a lot of positive momentum, and this kind of ruined it. I hate to sound so negative, but when you can cut the opening and closing cutscenes seamlessly together into one scene, that's a pretty good indicator nothing of substance really happened in between them. My thoughts on Marathon have been getting much more positive as its release nears, but there's no doubting its existence has hurt Destiny. While the PvE gameplay continued to evolve, PvP was largely left in the dust, going long stretches of time with little to no content updates. This again became even more apparent to me when I went back and replayed through Destiny 1. The amount of PvP investment back in Destiny 1 will make Enkuch wanna vomit. The Taken King introduced 8 new maps, guys. 8. Ocho. And it's strange because PvP was a core pillar of Destiny, and all of those players were basically abandoned, with many of those resources going to develop Marathon instead. One of the silent killers of Destiny has been its monetization. This is another topic I've talked about extensively in other videos, so I'll keep it brief here. I think Bungie gets away with selling skins in Destiny because it's the norm within gaming these days, when in reality, they have no place. As I mentioned, you're already paying to play the game. The free version of Destiny is a demo. Free-to-play Destiny is the modern-day equivalent of Flappy Bird Lite, guys. In addition to that, Destiny is a game about earning loot. The second you introduce gear you can buy, I don't care if it's just cosmetic, you devalue the gear you go out and earn. I want the loot in Destiny to be earned. I want that gear to tell a story about an adventure I went on. And yes, I understand that aspect is still in the game, but selling cosmetics dilutes this experience. As a player, why would I want Bungie to put resources towards Eververse when those same artists could make assets towards actual gameplay? Instead of telling them to make a Darth Vader helmet, why not have them make a helmet that's the head of some strike boss I could earn by beating that strike boss on a certain difficulty? What's worse is the other aspect, which is Bungie doing direct collab skins. Seeing Star Wars and all these other IP in Destiny has eroded the game's own identity, to the point where I legitimately think it's a problem. Now, they're definitely not going to do this. As I was writing this, the State of Play came out and they literally showed PlayStation crossovers in the way of weapon charms, but I do hope they don't continue this trend in Marathon and other future titles. Marathon has such a cool and unique visual identity. Don't ruin it by injecting IP. Speaking of future titles, the last mistake I want to cover is Destiny 3, or the lack thereof. The final shape was the perfect ending for Destiny 2. I kinda couldn't believe it when I played it. They seriously nailed it. As someone that's played Destiny since the beginning, they gave me everything I wanted. Why Bungie decided to come out with Echoes after this and not Destiny 3? I do not understand. The only thing I can think of is money. They needed, or maybe just wanted, to keep that live service train going. I want to talk more about the current state of Destiny and what the future holds in another video, so I'm going to hold off going into crazy detail about what I'd want to see in a sequel, but for the purposes of this video, it seems like not ending Destiny 2 with the final shape was a mistake. The Light and Darkness saga ended, the new player experience is bad, as I've said. I think the core gameplay and enemy types have been taken as far as they can really go. It's time to take a step back, truly innovate the franchise while maintaining the aspects of Destiny that players love, and come back when that game is ready. In the meantime, it would also be nice if they salvaged Destiny 2, transforming it into a playable experience from start to finish like you can do with Destiny 1, but I doubt we'll get that either. Now, as I mentioned at the start, this video is not intended to be a massive dunk on Bungie. I understand the topic in and of itself may seem like it's that way, but I promise it isn't. Obviously, Bungie has also done a lot of things right. I mean, for Destiny to even still be around after all these years is a feat many other studios cannot replicate. But like I said, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're doomed to repeat them. So I hope for Bungie and for all my fellow Destiny fans out there, the game only continues to improve. And I hope that means we'll get Destiny 3, but we'll have to wait and see. If you enjoyed this video, you can let me know by leaving a like, comment below what you think of my list. Is there anything I missed, shouldn't have included? Let me know. Thank you for watching the video and making it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to check out Logitech's new mouse, the Super Strike, link below. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.